everything you've heard about companion planting is a lie. Well, mostly a lie. Let's talk about it. So I've been on the record as saying that I don't like companion planting. In fact, there's a lot that I don't like about companion planting, so much so that I'm really avoiding the term companion planting, and I don't really use it even though there are some parts of it that are true. The large majority of it is not true. Now, the whole idea of companion planting is based around the idea that there are two plants that do well together, or maybe more than two, and then there are some plants that don't do well together. There's a bad side and a good side to companion planting. But if we look at the term companion, there really shouldn't be a bad side to it at all. They just shouldn't exist together. But yet the problem with companion planting is if you look on the internet, people will say, plant these next to these plants because there's a benefit, but don't plant these plants next to these plants. And from source to source, the information changes. There is not a firm, grounded standard that companion planting goes by. And so because of that, you have so many different blogs and influencers creating these videos about companion planting and tying in the good companions and the bad companions. And the problem is since they conflict, gardeners have no idea where to go. And we've heard you. And that's why I am completely moving away from ever talking about companion, and we're moving into a different term that I've used in the past called intercropping. So the thing that I really like about intercropping is that intercropping actually advocates growing a lot of plants in a smaller space, meaning you're becoming more productive as a gardener. When it comes to companion planting, a lot of people get bogged down and overwhelmed, and so they create a lot of space, and they really have these zones in their garden because they think, well, this plant can't go next to this plant because so-and-so said so. But then you'll check another source and they'll say, yeah, no, those are great companion plantings, but not that and that. And then you look over there and you're like, oh shoot, I'm doing that. So to just avoid all the drama in the garden, and so everyone plays nice, you end up spacing your garden out a ton, and you end up losing all that amazing biodiversity, which helps with overall productivity and pest reduction. All right, so before we start actually planting stuff in the garden, we're gonna talk about the rules to intercropping, because the rules are really simple. There's only 3. And once you follow these rules, everything else is gonna make sense. And you're gonna have so many eyes open to your garden, and you're gonna say, wow, I can plant just about anything that I want next to just about anything that I want, as long as I follow these 3 simple rules. And so the world becomes your oyster, and you're gonna be so much more of a productive gardener. So the first rule we want to follow is plant height. You never want to plant a tall plant next to a small plant. It's pretty reasonable why you wouldn't want to do that, because the tall plant will block the sun from the shorter plant. So for this example, if we were to have corn right here, and the corn grows up 5-6 feet tall, and we decide to intercrop some lettuce near the base of the corn, the problem is the corn is going to block all that sun, and the lettuce is going to struggle. And so if you follow plant height, you want everything, if you're intercropping, you want those plants in that intercropping zone to all be kind of a similar plant height, because you want the sun to be touching them all equally so nothing is being blocked. The second rule is the plant's leaf size. Now this bed right here, we have planted out with only cabbage. Now the reason why we have it planted out with only cabbage is because when we do a dense, high intensity spacing of cabbage, it allows us to grow a ton of cabbage in a smaller space, but we opted not to intercrop this bed here simply because the bed is more narrow. We can fit a whole lot more cabbage in this area because it's all gonna play nice since it's all cabbage, but because the leaf size is so big. You see, things like zucchini, things like cabbage, things like pumpkins, right? They have gigantic leaves. Rhubarb could be another example. Huge leaves. And those huge leaves create shade. And overall, they're gonna smother and push and knock other plants out of the way. And you don't wanna crowd for space, but you also don't wanna completely smother. See, right now, there's lots of space. Everything seems like it would play nice. If we were to plant some marigolds in here or something in this open space, a lot of gardeners don't have that future foresight. And they say, open space equals space for me to plant. That's a good idea, so I don't fault you for thinking that. I'll give you an example. We were doing some furniture shopping, and they had a room decorator where it was a simulator. And you could simulate what your room would look like with that furniture in your room to see if there was enough room, to see if it was too crowded. It was super cool. It was a very VR experience. You could have like a walkthrough of your room. You need to have a VR experience of what this is gonna look like when it's fully mature, because if we were to take that empty space and plant it out, it just wouldn't thrive. So you have to take into account the overall mature leaf size of that future crop that you're planting next to know if it's going to be a smart area to intercrop. All right, and the third and final rule that we have to follow is root zone. You want to make sure that the root zone is going to play nice. In this bed here, we have this bed planted out with potatoes. Now you'll notice we don't have any other plants planted here. And the reason why is because potatoes take up the root zone because it's a root crop. Because it's a tuber that grows underneath the soil, we don't want to be growing other stuff, because the thing is that when it comes time to harvesting those potatoes, it's going to mess up those other plants. And if we grow other plants on top, it's going to steal nutrients and water away from the tubers, so they're not developing as big as they could be. And overall, it's really going to be kind of a conflict. You see, if this whole bed was empty here, there was no potatoes planted, you could plant something like lettuce and something like kale just fine. Lettuce and kale, the root zone, there's nothing happening below the soil other than just roots. The main function is to move throughout the soil, find water, find nutrients. Totally fine. If it was, say, a carrot and a beet, great. That is awesome. Carrots and beets, they're pretty narrow, but they're both root crops. They don't take up that much overall top space. The roots play nice, right? The roots play nice because they're both root crops. But what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't plant a carrot and a potato. Why? Because the roots don't play nice. The roots, you're gonna have a carrot that grows down and tubers that grow out. Not gonna make sense. It just does not make sense. So you have to ask yourself if the roots will play nice. Another example has to do with actual chemical interaction. So for instance, a lot of people know that you don't plant your garden near black walnut trees. Why is that? Well, black walnuts excrete a chemical called juglone, and juglone is a chemical that will basically stunt plant development. Same thing comes from sunflowers. Sunflowers will excrete a chemical. That's how they get so big and so large, is that they actually will stunt a lot of the growth in the surrounding area from the roots. They will actually stunt those surrounding plants so that they can have more of that root zone to grow nice and large and huge. So you have to know if the roots are gonna play nice. If they play nice, they're good to go. If they don't play nice, why would you companion plant them together? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So don't intercrop those plants if they're not gonna play nice. All right, so I'm gonna share with you some intercropping ideas that you're absolutely gonna love. I've used them for so many years with great success, and I know you'll have great success in your garden as well. The first one, I like to intercrop for not only productivity, but also pest control. That's one of my favorite ways to intercrop, is for pest control, because as an organic gardener, I try to use as few chemicals as possible, even when they're organic. So I will turn to something like neem oil if I have to, but if I can prevent the pests that I'm spraying with neem oil by just intercropping, it's a win-win. The first one here is planting basil next to tomatoes. It's the most infamous intercropping that you can have. And the reason why is because the roots play nice, check. They get about the same height, they get nice and bushy, and when you prune your tomatoes up a single stem, your indeterminate tomatoes, they don't block as much sunlight. So the overall leaf size and plant height, check, check. Got 3 checks. That means basil is great to plant next to tomatoes, and the basil gives off a scent, that aroma of basil as you crush those leaves. Oh, it's just such a fantastic smell. What it does is something amazing. You see, tomato hornworm, a common problem in the garden, a common pest, they are attracted to the scent of the tomato plant. The tomato hornworm has a host plant, and that host plant is the tomato plant. When the hawk moth is flying around, the hawk moth is actually what lays the eggs on the undersides of your tomatoes. The hawk moth is flying around and is sensing the smell of the tomato. If you plant basil next to your tomatoes, the scent of the basil, or the scent of anything, you could plant dill, right? Dill would be another one. You don't have to plant it's not exclusive to just basil. It could be any tall, fragrant herb. Plant some dill, plant some fennel, plant some, whatever it may be, right? Those fragrant herbs will actually mask the scent of the tomato, masking it to confuse the pest from knowing where that plant is. So it's really helpful for pest control. I'll give you another example. The next intercropping I absolutely love for pest control are marigolds. I love marigolds, and a lot of you know that marigolds can be very beneficial. But why do I like marigolds? Well, they don't provide, yes, they are edible, but they don't provide a ton of overall productivity. They will fill out a bed and make it look pretty, but the scent of the marigold actually is really great at a few things. You can plant it in close proximity to your brassicas, not right next to them because the leaf size does not play nice, but in close proximity. There's been some good evidence that shows that the roots of the marigold will actually excrete a chemical that prevents the root knot nematode, which affects things like brassicas. But you gotta be aware that the brassicas are gonna trample your marigolds. They're not gonna play nice, but in close proximity might be a great thing, right? Close proximity is a little bit different than intercropping. Now, what these are great for is the scent of the marigold has been actually found to prevent cucumber beetles. So we're planting it next to our cucumbers here because our cucumbers, they're not gonna trample, they're gonna trail and vine, and that's fine. What we're looking for is the scent of the marigolds. We're gonna plant our end caps with these beautiful marigolds here, our Cracker Jack mix marigolds. And what's gonna happen is as these fill out and bloom, those blooms are gonna provide a beautiful scent that is going to mask the host plant, which is the cucumber plant, from the cucumber beetle, which looks for the host plant. So it's kind of just, again, it's kind of like throwing a smoke screen up. They're there, they're not moving, but when the pest is looking for the host plant, if it can't find it, it's gonna go elsewhere. It's gonna go over your neighbor's garden, and then they're gonna get them, and they're gonna ask you what you did, what your secret was, and it's such a simple secret. You just gotta know what you need and how to plant it properly, and you're gonna be awesome, you're gonna be golden. Another really great one that you can actually plant are onions. So we're gonna plant this whole bed out with onions, but if you had onions and carrots, they work out great because the root zone, they work out well, right? Onions, they are a root crop, but they actually form mostly on top of the soil. The carrots go deep, but the roots don't really ever intermingle. They don't have a boxing match underneath the soil. And so because of that, onions and carrots are great because onions actually help to prevent carrot fly. The carrot is the host for the carrot fly. And the carrot fly will lay an egg and will rot out the center of the carrot. And you'll end up with really nasty rotten carrots. But to prevent that, you plant some onions next to it, and that has been factually proven to prevent carrot fly. Super cool. Root zones play nice, tops play nice, leaves play nice. Great combo. All right, and last but not least, I'm gonna give you a cheat code for intercropping that's kind of gonna break some rules, but that's why I saved it for the very last, because I didn't want to confuse you all by putting it in the very beginning. Once you understand these rules, everything makes sense until you realize a few of these cheat codes. Because, for instance, we have here this rhubarb plant. Absolutely huge. We've allocated a lot of space for it because the leaves, they don't play very nice. They get real big. But right now, when the plant is small, we can plant some stuff that is very short term. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. It's gonna be fast in, fast out. These beets are gonna be awesome. We have some beets here that are multi-sown. They're gonna fill out, and these are all gonna be nice little zones of beets planted next to a rhubarb plant. The roots play nice. They're all gonna be fine. The leaves are gonna be playing nice because they're not gonna be that big yet. And so everything's gonna be fine. Another thing you could do is with things like radishes. Radishes next to some plants that might otherwise not play nice, right? You could intercrop your radishes next to something like your broccoli. Broccoli normally would not play nice. It would get way too big. But because radishes are fast in, fast out, you can apply this cheat code to kind of get around the leaf size or the plant size by intercropping those fast in, fast out crops. And those are kind of the cheat codes that if you have a little open space, that open space can be exploited to grow something that would otherwise not really do well there. Another great example, our tomatoes, right? Our tomatoes, a cheat code is how we prune our tomatoes. Because we prune our tomatoes up to a single stem, we're actually taking what would be a really bushy plant and it actually opens up this amazing zone. Check it out. So if you come over here, you'll see this zone right here is all open. Now, one would say, well, as the plant grows, that future VR vision I talked about, something's not gonna play nice here because this tomato plant's gonna grow out nice and big. Not if you prune it. You can grow your tomato plant up. And taking out the leaf checkbox, if you prune it, the leaf checkbox is kind of automatically default check. You can plant something like bush beans down here, and bush beans are gonna be awesome because the plant, though the height is there, the foliage is so sparse when it's pruned, because you can prune tomatoes like that, that this cheat code allows you to plant something like bush beans or beets, whatever. We've had great success intercropping those plants, and this zone here becomes available. And that is awesome because then you have plants up top producing and plants down below producing and plants in the rows producing, meaning this whole bed is chock full of food. And that means a more productive garden. So I really hope this video helped. I really hope that it also kind of broke down some of those barriers of confusion. I don't want anyone to ever do their research to put in a garden and then get so confused and bogged down from doing that research that it prevents them from putting in a garden or stifles how much they could get out of their garden because they're too afraid to make a mistake. And that's, again, the biggest beef that I've got with companion planting is the good parts of companion planting. If it was just the good, that'd be fine. The problem is they don't stop there and they always have a bad. There's always a bad to companion planting, which never has made sense to me. And so what I prefer is I prefer the rules to follow with intercropping, because then you're only focusing on the good, right? You're only focusing on the good. And as long as it checks those check boxes or you're using those cheat codes I gave you, you're gonna be fine. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit a huge green thumbs up. Help spread this video around to more people because companion planting is by far, in my opinion, one of the biggest misconceptions being spread around the gardening community, and probably the most common thing coming into our inbox. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you'll learn something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider checking this one out. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you so much for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. Consider doing that. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or shine. And if you need any garden tools, supplies, or seeds, check out MIgardener.com. We got you covered. See you guys in the garden. Bye.